Good morning, afternoon, or evening, everyone. My name is Jeremy Walsh, and I'm the Director of Support, Training, and Documentation for BNI Connect. I'd like to welcome everybody to the webinar today. For those of you that have been with us for the past couple of webinars, this is a continuation of a series of 5 total webinars about BNI Connect, where we go through pretty much the whole system of BNI Connect, get you more familiar with some of the functions and some of the things that are available to you in this resource. We started out this series a couple of days ago with step 1, which is filling out your profile. Then we moved on to the online slips. And then the third part of the series was on Friday, where we talked about really kind of the social media aspects, how to use the bigger network around us here in BNI. Today, what we're going to talk about is the member tools and reports. So we're going to dive a little bit deeper and go beyond the home screen here and take a look at some of the things available to us as far as statistics and other tools that are there for us in BNI Connect. The final part of this series is going to be tomorrow, where we're going to talk about the whole visitor system. So I recognize some of the names here on the list. I thank you guys for being here multiple times, and hopefully you'll stick through to the very end and one more webinar tomorrow. So that being said, a couple of housekeeping things for those that might be new for us. This is a live webinar, so if you have any questions whatsoever, please feel free to ask those questions as we're going through the material today. I'll see the questions pop up on my screen, and I'll be able to answer them as we go along. Of course, I will always leave plenty of time at the end for questions. So if you have an unrelated question or you don't think of anything until the end, feel free to put it then. We try to keep these webinars to about 30 minutes to allow people to get back to their busy days. Even though it is a holiday here in the United States, it's not a holiday necessarily everywhere in the world. That being said, half hour for the content, and I'll always stay on these webinars until every single question is answered. We are also recording this webinar. It will be made available on our support site, which you can access by clicking this question mark in the upper right-hand corner, or you can always go to support.bniconnect.com. All right, so let's get started. So we're going to talk about tools and reports, which means we are going to have to go to that scary place beyond the home screen. Now, before we do that, though, I just want to remind everybody that there is a great report right here on the home screen. Besides the ability to go and review all of our slips, we also have this report up here at the top called the My Personal Participation Report. Now, this report is great because it will show you a breakdown of your membership, so week by week by week by week. This report, this report here from the home screen is hard-coded to be 1 year. So this is going back exactly 1 year in time, and it is showing me, again, week by week, what my last year in BNI has been like. So it'll give me my total number of referrals and visitors, and thank you for closed business. It'll also give me my attendance, any members that I've sponsored, and any training that I've taken over the past 12 months. What I find really helpful with this is to also be able to pinpoint any mistakes that might have been made in your POMS report. So if you're thinking that your thank you for closed business number is off or your number of one-to-ones isn't right, take a look at it, and if a correction does need to be made, the best thing to do is to be able to pinpoint, oh, this was for, let's say, the December 10th report. I should have had a one-to-one here. That will help your vice president be able to make those corrections. So now we do need to go beyond the home screen to take a look at some other things. Now, the way to get places in BNI Connect is to use these menus along the top. Now, depending on what your access level is, you may see some or all of these, but at the very least, everybody should see network, operations, and reports. Network is always going to be the social media function. So it's going to be the connections and the testimonials, the picture gallery for uploading photos to your profile. Operations and reports are really where we're going to go next. Operations is the day-to-day operations or managing your chapter. For most members, this is going to be not too much because that's where the vice presidents usually go to enter the POMS reports, for example, and the secretary treasurers go to input the speaker rotation. But there are a couple of tools under there for just us as members. So I'm going to show you a couple of things under there. Reports are read only. That's the important thing to remember. Reports are read only. So you can't ever input anything in reports. You can only get stuff back out. If you're going to be inputting or looking for a specific thing to create, look under operations. Otherwise, reports are going to give you stats and are read only. So let's take a look at the operations menu and see what's there. Now again, I'm logged in as a system administrator, so you may or may not see everything on the screen here as I see it, but you should see most of this stuff. So here on the left, we have different options. We have visitor management and meeting management, and your chapter also has the ability to track goals for the chapter throughout the year. I do a whole webinar on that next week for leadership teams. There's also a mentoring program that will keep your new members and their mentors in alignment going through the training process. The one thing though that's important under here that I want to show you is under this create email function, and there's two tools under here that I find really helpful for members. The first of which is email my chapter. And what the email my chapter is really, it's a distribution list for all of your chapter members. So if you need to get an email out to your chapter, you can click on this function and it will give you the most current distribution list. I remember before BNI Connect, if I wanted to send out an email to my chapter, I would have to go find the last group email from my sent items or from the last message delivered to my chapter, and then hit reply all to that. Somehow it never went to the right people. There was always people on the list that shouldn't have been there anymore, and there was, the new members weren't included, so it was always a struggle. Now if I need to get in touch with my chapter, I can grab these addresses, I can copy them, and all I need to do is to start my own email and my own email program. I highly recommend putting everybody in the BCC line, and that will keep the, all the responses to a minimum. I know everybody gets enough email, so getting the "yep, I got this" replies to all tends to be a pain. So you can avoid that by using the BCC line. Contrary to popular belief, you don't have to put anything in the to line. You can just put them all in the BCC line. Type up your email and send it out. That's all there is to it. And under create email, there's another tool under here though that I want to show you, and it's the email visitor invitation. I'm going to cover this again tomorrow if you happen to be on the webinar tomorrow, but I think it's important enough to show you guys today just in case you won't be on the webinar tomorrow. But BNI Connect allows you to invite a visitor to your chapter. And I find this to be really, really helpful because a lot of times when we're inviting visitors, we have a hard time really knowing what to say to visitors to explain what BNI is all about. And sometimes we'll say the wrong things or go on and on and on about BNI because we love it so much. But this is a nice way to create an invitation that has just the right amount of proper branding and message in it. So if I click on email visitor invitation, all we have to do is put in a name, an email address, and a personal message. So let's say that I was at a networking event. Now, personally, my opinion, I like to use this as the second invitation. So after you've already talked with somebody, this is the follow-up to invite them to the chapter. So if you're out, let's say at a networking event, Chamber of Commerce after hours or networking luncheon or something like that, and you meet somebody, you think they'd be a good fit for BNI and you like to invite them. So you verbally invite them. Would you like to come to my BNI meeting? Do you mind if I send you an invitation? Now you can follow that up with this invitation. So let's say I met somebody, John Smith from Smithco, and their email address. Now, if you'd like to see what one of these look like, my recommendation is to send one to yourself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send one to myself, Jeremy@therightclick.net, and then put in a personal message. The personal message is going to be the first paragraph of this automated template that we're using. And the first paragraph should be something, so it definitely sounds like it's coming from you. So I'll usually say something like, because this is, again, my second invitation to them. It was great meeting you at the Chamber networking event. I would love to introduce you to my referral team. And then I can go ahead and click send. It's going to take that information, wrap it up in a nice little pretty package and put a bow on top. It does get delivered immediately. So I should have that email in just about a second. As soon as it traverses the internet. And as soon as that comes through, here it is. Here is the email message. You can see that it has a nice branded BNI image at the top. It then says, Dear John. It puts in my first paragraph. It was great meeting you at the Chamber Networking event. I would love to introduce you to my referral team. It then goes on to cordially invite them. And here's the great part. It puts in the information about your chapter automatically. So I don't have to remember the physical address of my meeting location. I know how to drive there at 6 o'clock in the morning, but I don't necessarily know what the address is off the top of my head. It also types out a little bit with what is BNI about. It's a business and professional networking organization. It then lets them know that they're looking for somebody in their profession and to please RSVP with you. And at that point, once they RSVP with you, now it is a much more official invitation. Now, once they RSVP, you can also register them for an upcoming meeting, which is a wonderful thing to do. It sends them email reminders and all sorts of stuff, and I'm going to cover that in tomorrow's webinar, inviting and registering visitors. What I want to do now is to move over to the reports section. So if I go over to the reports, there are a boatload of reports here. There's about 20 or so reports that are available. I am not going to go through all of them today, but I do recommend that you come back and go through them yourself. You can't really break anything when it comes to reports. As I said, the reports are read only. So feel free to click through them, print them out, bring them out to Excel. I'll show you how to do all of that now. So the member training report, that's great for finding out more information about training. However, I'm going to skip right down to the chapter roster report. This report is really important to take a look at because it is going to have a list of your chapter members in it. But more importantly than that, it is also going to, so down at the bottom, obviously it's going to have the roster, all of the people in your chapter, how many members you have, and a phone number and a quick view of the POMS report for the last 90 days. Now, up above, it's going to also show the leadership team. And this one is especially important because a lot of times different permissions in BNI Connect go along with having a certain role in your chapter. For example, the chapter webmaster is able to go in and edit your chapter website. So if you're looking for the functionality to be able to edit the chapter website, you need to make sure that you are assigned as the chapter webmaster. Now, your regional office does the actual assigning. So contact your director consultant or your regional admin if you need a role assigned. But if, let's say, you're looking to enter visitors and you can't find the place to enter visitors and it's not there where it's supposed to be, it might be because you're not listed as the visitor host yet. So take a time to take a look through there. It also does list your director consultant and the way in which you can contact the director consultant for your chapter, all here in the chapter roster report. All right, the membership dues report, it's very similar to the chapter roster, but it shows when people are due for renewal. Robin has a question. Robin says, well, what if we don't have a chapter webmaster? So if you don't have a chapter webmaster, it just means that more than likely nobody is making any edits or updates to your chapter website. You should still have a chapter website though. To get to your chapter website, click on regional website in the upper right-hand corner. That will take you to your regional website. Go to find a chapter and search for your chapter. My chapter happens to be the Wakefield chapter. And from here, I can visit the chapter website. Of course, I could have just gone directly to the URL if I had known it. But this is, for the most part, this is a default chapter website. So if you don't have anybody managing your website, this is what it's going to look like. However, there are some really interesting ones out there. Let me just show you one real quick, BNI Rugby. This is a chapter in the UK. And you can see what they've done to their chapter website. They've added videos and all sorts of things. So there's lots that you can do with your chapter website. The nice thing is that it is automatically updated when it comes to the roster and everything else. So if you don't have a chapter webmaster, find out if somebody would like to be the chapter webmaster in your chapter and let your regional office know. Does that answer your question, Robin? All right, cool. So I'm going to skip down a couple of reports here to the meeting notes report. This is actually one of my favorite reports in the system. And the reason that's one of my favorite reports in the system is because it can help you to give more referrals. It will help you to give more referrals. Here's what the report is, and it's going to look kind of simple, but it does have some power behind it, and that is just a list of all the members and what their company name is. But what it also has next to it is a place for notes, and this report was really meant to be printed. And when you print it out, what you can do is take notes during the chapter meeting. In other words, during the 60-second presentations, during the weekly presentations, as all the members are going around the room, listen to what they're asking for. Write down something that's going to jog your memory, especially in larger chapters. I mean, my chapter has, right now we're down to 41 members, but for the longest time we had 50 members in it. By the time, 6, 8, 10 people go around the room, you don't remember what the first person said anymore unless they did a really outstanding presentation. So the best thing to do is to keep notes, and even if you end up throwing this piece of paper away, the act of writing it down helps to ingrain it in your mind. Now, this report, some people might say, well, there's not enough room to write on there. I would rather have this sorted by first name instead of last name, or I want it sorted by company name, or whatever you want to do. That's great. Every report in the system can be exported to Excel. So you can either click on Export without headers or Export. Export means that it's going to take everything on the screen and put that in Excel. So that includes all this stuff at the top, like who ran the report, when it was run, what your region is, all of that stuff. Most people don't need that, and that's where the Export without headers comes in. And when I open this up in Excel, if I open that up in Excel and I enable editing here, now I have full control over that report. So that means that I can, let's say I wanted more room for keeping notes. I could make this field deeper. And maybe I want to make them wider. Let's just make this one wider. So really whatever you want to do at that point with this particular Excel spreadsheet makes it a lot easier to work with. By the way, just nothing to do really with BNI Connect, just a little Excel tip. One of my favorite buttons in Excel is this one right here. It's right on the Home ribbon and a button that says Format as Table. And you can pick a color scheme. I usually go with the medium ones. And the nice thing is that it sorts out this table for you. So now it's nice and colorful. It goes, every other line is highlighted. But I can also now have these drop-down lists. So I can do, let's say I want this sorted by first name instead. I'm going to click that little drop-down and choose Sort First to Last. And again, if you like to also keep notes electronically during the meeting, you can save a copy of this file and type during the meeting instead. The Summary POMS report is the next report on here. And the Summary POMS report, this is really the bread and butter of your chapter statistics. It's all of the referrals and visitors, et cetera, et cetera. It will by default show you the last completed 6 months. So it's showing July through the end of December. As of February 1st, it'll start showing August through the end of January. But you can change these dates anytime you want to. So I can change these. Let's say I want to look at the stats from when my chapter first started all the way through today. I can do that. I can go back to 1995 if I want to, which is like 10 years before the chapter started. And I can go all the way through, let's say, today. You have an option of whether or not you want to show the dropped member names. So especially when you're running a report like this for a very, very long time, in this case, like 13 years or so, you may want to see who was in the chapter at the time. Or maybe you don't. I'm going to go ahead and choose to show dropped member names and click Go. Now this is going to take a minute, just combing through 10 years, 15 years worth of data. And here I have my results, and I can see all of the information. For anybody that isn't aware, what PALMS stands for is present, absent, late, medical, and substitute. So those are the different attendance statuses that you could have: present, absent, late, medical, or substitute. RG stands for referrals given. RR stands for referrals received. And then there's an I and an O. So RGI is referrals given inside the chapter. RGO is referrals given outside the chapter. And what that means is, doesn't mean that you pass the referral at the meeting or not. What it means is an inside referral means I stayed within the network of my chapter. So it's really when two members do business with each other. So, for example, I'm in this chapter. If Brad Asher, if I was to use Brad Asher's services, or if Brad Asher was to use my services, that would be an inside referral. Now, an outside referral, which is really what BNI is all about here, is when I introduce somebody in my network to Brad, for example. So it could be a cousin, it could be a colleague, it could be an employee, it could be an employer, it could be my mother, it could be anybody outside of the chapter, and I introduce that to him. That would be a given outside. V is for visitors. One-to-ones are those one-to-one meetings that we have. And thank you for closed business is when somebody has thanked you for generating revenue for their business. So what we're tracking here in the PALMS report is how much money people have given, the giver's gain aspect of it. So how much money have people given? That is not how much money people have made. And of course, CEUs are the chapter education units. Make sure you submit a CEU slip for today as well. And as with before, you can scroll down to the bottom, see the totals, and you can export these reports as well. So if you wanted to, sort these by who gave the most referrals, or you want to run some averages or things like that, best thing to do, get it out to Excel, and you can play with it and make graphs and do number crunching until your heart's content. All right, I'm going to skip down. The absence report is pretty straightforward. It's the number of times people have been absent. The classification's not in chapter. Now, this is a neat little report. The reason that I like this report is because it's going to show us, well, which classifications or which categories we have open in our chapter. But what I like is that it goes a little bit beyond that, and it also shows you really how many other chapters do have that profession, and it ranks them that way. So if I click Go, this is going to list all of the people in my chapter, or all of the professions that we don't have in our chapter. And this list, by the way, goes on for a very long time. There's something like, I think Steve might know the answer to this better, but I think it's 700 or so different categories or something like that in BNI Connect. But it ranks them. So it says, okay, well, you don't have a printer. You don't have somebody that does printing services in your chapter. However, there are 7 other chapters in your region that do. Now, there's only about 20 chapters here in Rhode Island. So just about half of those chapters have a printer in them, or a third of those chapters have a printer in them. What that means is that a couple of things. A, printers are pretty popular. It means that printers are doing business, and printers find BNI to be a good resource for their business. So if I'm talking to a printer in my area, I can very easily say, no, yeah, printers do pretty well in BNI. We have a number of printers in BNI. You might even be able to introduce them to their competition. The other thing, it also means that we're not competing against all of those chapters for a printer. So if I do ask a printer to come to my chapter and they do end up liking it, they can't necessarily go around shopping chapters because many chapters in the area do have a printer already. Now, you do have to take this report with a grain of salt. And the reason I say that is because there's so many different breakdowns to the categories. For example, mortgages. I can assure you that we have a residential mortgage person in our chapter, as most chapters do. However, in BNI Connect, there's residential mortgage, there's commercial mortgage, there's mortgages, there's just the category mortgage singular. So because people can choose different specific categories, some of these you do need to be a little bit careful of. But for the most part, it does give you a pretty good idea of what your chapter is missing. And I also like this because sometimes you think you're at the end of your contact list and you're like, I can't think of anybody else to invite to the chapter. This is a great way to just take a look through this list. If it's on this list, it has been in BNI before. So, I mean, excavating and home interior staging and home theater and eye care and disc jockeys and underwater basket weaving and search engine optimization. All of these things that you may not think of as everyday professions for BNI could just spark somebody you know. Scrolling down the list a little bit, the Personal Palms report, by the way, is the same one that's on your home screen. The difference is that you can run this for any period of time you'd like to. So you could run it on your own membership and go back to when you first joined BNI, or you can actually run this report for other people in your chapter as well, which is especially helpful if you happen to be on the membership committee. Chapter visitor report. Now the member details report right above that. This is a great report because it allows you to print out or more easily view a member's profile. So it's great to go and look at somebody's profile and see all the information on there, but this report allows you to print it out. If you just try to print out the other screen, it comes out looking pretty horrible. So I can go into the member details report, and let's say that if you think back to your member success program, when we do a one-to-one with somebody, before that one-to-one, what we're supposed to do is to do what's called the gains exchange. And what that is if I'm going to be meeting with you, for example, before that one-to-one meeting, I want to send you my gains profile so that you can read about my goals, my achievements, my interests, my networks, my skills, know more about me before we sit down, and then the conversation can start off on a deeper basis. So rather than spending the first half hour breaking the ice and talking about the weather and talking about how the Patriots did yesterday, we can sit down and talk about my goals, things like that. If we go to the member details report, we can go to view member gains, choose the person from your chapter, and now we have a much more printer-friendly format. So you can even just go from here and copy it and paste it into an email if you wanted to, or be able to print it or export it or print it to PDF, something like that, and be able to send that out. I do remember when I first joined BNI, we were asked to fill it out on a piece of paper and fax it to our one-to-one partner, but I don't think I've had a fax machine in many, many years. There's the chapter traffic lights report. If your region is using chapter traffic lights, a great way to see how your chapter is stacking up against other chapters in your area. And there's your scoreboard here. If you are looking for more information about how this is scored, what I recommend doing is to go and click on the question mark in front of chapter traffic lights. If you click on the little question mark in front of anything, it will bring you to the special help document for just that particular function. And here we can see how the traffic lights are calculated and all the KSFs and how it is scored as well. And then we also have length of membership reports and the visitor registration reports, which I will go into in more detail tomorrow. Now, we are at the bottom of the hour. Before I let you guys go, I want to let you in on one little secret, and that is that once you start discovering your own favorite reports and functions and things like that, you can make your own special shortcut menu right from the home screen. So you'll notice that there's the My BNI Business here. That's this stuff here. This is what we used to call the member module, all of the online slips and things like that. And below that, we have My Network on that little slider there. So the My Network is all of the social media functions. But below that, you have Chapter. And what this is all of the things available to you at the chapter level. So if you went to Operations Chapter, Reports Chapter, Admin Chapter, anything that you have access to, you can create into a shortcut menu here. And we do that by clicking the Configure button. So what's on the left here is the stuff that's going to be in your shortcut menu. On the right is the stuff that you're not currently utilizing in your shortcut menu. I can take stuff, let's say that I am going to be, I need the membership dues report. I can take that and take it from my inactive menu to my active menu on the left-hand side. Or the chapter traffic lights. Now, once I get them into my side over here, let's say I don't want something anymore, I could exit out. And let's say I want the chapter traffic lights all the way at the top. I can drag and drop that to the top. Oh, you know what? I want the Email My Chapter on top, so I'm going to put that one on top. Once I'm satisfied with that, I can submit it. I can make any more changes if I want to, and then when I'm done, I can just close out. And now you'll see Email My Chapter and Chapter Traffic Lights are up here at the top. So now instead of going to Operations, Chapter, Create Email, Email My Chapter, I could just go to Email My Chapter right here and have the information. So it saves a number of clicks, usually 3, 4, 5 clicks, and you can jump back and forth between really anything you have access to. You can make this list as long as you want it to. All right, so we are at the bottom of the hour. I'd like to say thank you guys for being here today. Thank you for joining me and spending time with me on this fine day. What I'd like to do now is to open this up to any questions. If anybody has any questions whatsoever, I would like to take some time now to answer those questions. While you're thinking up any questions, just a reminder, this is being recorded. It will be made available on 2 places, the support site. So if you click that question mark in the upper right-hand corner here, this will take you to the support site. You'll see our series of webinars. So today we're doing this member tools and reports. Tomorrow we will be doing inviting and registering visitors. By the way, a good referral for me is to please invite people to these webinars, especially when new members come in. I redo this series every single month. So if you could please recommend them, that would be a great referral for me. Now, Gina just asked, can I get the first couple of recordings? I have already put those ones up onto our YouTube channel and as well as onto the support site. So click on the support site. Under the upcoming webinars, step 1, this webinar was recorded. If you click that, it will take you to our January webinar series. And you can check out the recorded ones, and pretty soon today's webinar will join its ranks. If you'd like to, you can also go directly to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/BNI Connect Global, and this has our everything that we've ever recorded is up here in YouTube. So recorded webinars. We also have a ton of education moments. These are short, 3 to 5 minute videos that you can use for educating your chapter. Let them know about all of these functions in BNI Connect. So Gina, does that help? Robin says, she has to go, but she'll be back tomorrow for the visitor section. So I look forward to seeing you tomorrow, Robin. Thanks for being here again. All right. Do we have any additional questions at all? All right. If there's no additional questions, I will let you guys get on with your day. Thank you again for spending some time with me, and I look forward to seeing you on a future webinar. Happy connecting.